Every time we refused a demand, my husband's parent would cry, saying, "If you say no, you'll ruin this family." My husband groaned and said, "Just give in." I smiled, pulled out a folder, and said, "Then let's read the messages you sent about us." Their tears stopped instantly as their own words betrayed them. I never thought I'd have to do this to my own in-laws, but here we are. For years, my husband's parents, let's call them George and Sylvia, used guilt and manipulation to get whatever they wanted. Every time they demanded something, and we said no, Sylvia would burst into tears. George would cross his arms, shake his head, and sigh like we had personally ruined their lives. And every single time, my husband, Nick, would say, "Just give in. It's not worth the fight." For years, I watched them take advantage of him. But this time, I was ready. It started when Nick and I bought our first home. 3 bedrooms, a yard, everything we wanted. We worked years to save for this. Scrimped, sacrificed, took extra shifts. It was ours. When we told his parents, they smiled. Then Sylvia said, "Oh good. Now we can move in." Excuse me, what? I thought she was joking. She wasn't. They fully believed that we had bought this house for all of us to live in. Not because they were sick. Not because they were struggling. Because they wanted to. They had their own house. They just didn't feel like paying a mortgage anymore. And when we told them no, "If you say no, you'll ruin this family," Sylvia immediately started crying. Loudly. George just stared at us. "After everything we've done for you?" Nick froze. I could see it happening in real time. Years of conditioning kicking in. He started sweating. Sylvia squeezed his hand and said, "We could have the master bedroom. You two can take the guest room." "That's fair." "Fair? That's not happening," I said. Sylvia wailed like I had slapped her. George clenched his jaw. Nick groaned and ran a hand down his face. "Can we just find a compromise?" Sylvia saw the crack in his resolve. She sniffled dramatically and whispered, "I just thought we were all a family." Nick started backtracking. I watched it happen. "Maybe we could." "I don't know. Figure something out." I turned to him. "So you want them to move in?" Nick looked exhausted. "No, but then let's read the messages you sent about us." Everything stopped. Sylvia stopped crying immediately. George stiffened. Nick frowned. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out a folder and set it on the table. Thick. Heavy. Printed pages. Nick looked confused. His parents looked scared. I opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of every nasty thing they had said about me, about our marriage, about how they deserved this house. Nick blinked. "What is this?" I turned the pages slowly, reading out loud. "Nick is so whipped by that woman. She's stealing him from us. I can't wait for them to split so he'll come home. We deserve that house, not them. They don't even need 3 bedrooms. Selfish brats." Nick stared at the words. His face darkened. Sylvia grabbed the folder and tried to close it. "That's private." George snapped. "You went through our messages?" I leaned back. "Nope. Your cousin sent them to me. Apparently, she thinks your behavior is disgusting." Nick was completely still. He looked at his mother. You said all this?" Sylvia's face crumpled. "We didn't mean it. We were just venting." George gritted his teeth. "This is out of context." I flipped another page. Nick is too stupid to see she's controlling him. His jaw tightened. Sylvia grabbed his hand again. "Sweetheart, you know how I get when I'm upset." Nick pulled his hand away. "How long has this been going on?" George folded his arms. "We were frustrated. It was just words." Nick's voice was ice cold. "You planned to take our house. You called my wife names. You wanted us to break up." Sylvia sniffled again. "We just thought you'd be happier if it was like old times." I closed the folder. "You don't get to insult me and then cry your way out of it." Silence. Nick stood up. "I need a minute." He walked out of the room. Sylvia immediately turned on me. "How dare you?" I laughed. "You did this to yourself." Sylvia screamed. George grabbed her arm. "Let's go." She shrieked at him. "We can fix this. We just need to make him understand." George pulled her to the door. "He understands plenty." And just like that, they were gone. But this wasn't over. For a few days, everything was quiet. Nick was shaken. He barely spoke. I let him process it on his own, not wanting to push. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "I need to talk to them." I froze. "Why?" Nick ran a hand through his hair. "I need answers. I need to hear it from them." I didn't like it, but I understood. So he called them. Sylvia answered on the first ring. Her voice was soft, broken. "Nick, I was so scared you'd never talk to me again." I watched his face. I could tell he was wavering. "We need to meet. Just us." Sylvia immediately agreed. Something felt off. Nick met them at a small cafe. I stayed home, but I was on edge the whole time. Then he came back, silent. I could see it all over his face, something was wrong. What happened? Nick sat down slowly. They acted like nothing happened. I waited. They said they were just upset. That I should understand. They refused to say sorry. I clenched my fists. Of course they did. Nick let out a bitter laugh. You know what my dad said? What? Nick mimicked George's voice. We didn't mean for you to see those messages. That was private family talk. Family talk, I repeated. Nick nodded. I told them, she's my family. You're talking about my wife. And you know what my mom said? I waited. No, she's your wife. We're your family. I felt my blood boil. Nick leaned back, looking exhausted. Then my mom started crying again. Saying she's an old woman, she makes mistakes, she didn't mean it. My dad kept saying, we just want to move on from this. Move on. They wanted to pretend nothing happened. They wanted to rewrite history. Nick exhaled sharply. I told them I needed space. I bit my lip. And? Nick's expression darkened. Mom lost it. She started saying I was being cruel. That I was punishing them. That they were just trying to do what was best for me. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Nick just shook his head. Then my dad said, you're letting her change you. I stopped laughing. Nick looked at me. That's when I walked out. That night, the phone started buzzing. I ignored it at first, but then I saw the messages. How could you do this to your mother? She was up all night crying. You're ruining the family. You've changed. Then came the calls. Then came the voicemails. Sylvia sobbing. Nick, I don't understand. Why are you doing this? We love you. George, furious. You're making a mistake, son. You'll regret this. I played the voicemails for Nick. He listened silently. Then he deleted all of them. I need to be done with them. But the thing is, they weren't done with us. It started small. Nick's younger brother, Mark, stopped replying to texts. His aunt, Carol, suddenly left our group chat. His cousin, Sam, canceled dinner plans without explanation. At first, we didn't put it together. Then we heard from Nick's uncle. Your parents are telling everyone that you abandoned them. Nick blinked. What? They're telling the whole family that you cut them off for no reason. That they begged for your forgiveness, but you refused. That you're treating them like garbage after everything they did for you. I felt sick. Nick clenched his jaw. Who believes them? His uncle sighed. Most of the older relatives. They think your mom is a saint. And your dad? He's saying you're under her influence. I laughed bitterly. Of course he is. Nick's hands were shaking. They're turning everyone against us. A few nights later, around 11 p.m., we heard something outside. A rustling. Then, our doorknob jiggled. Nick and I froze. Then we heard whispering. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the security camera app. It was them. George and Sylvia. At our front door. Nick's face went white. I turned on the porch light and stepped in front of the door. Leave. Now. Sylvia gasped. Honey, we just wanted to talk. Nick spoke from behind me. Breaking into our house isn't talking. George's voice was sharp. Open the door. We're family. I reached for my phone. Leave, or I'm calling the police. Sylvia started crying. You wouldn't. We're your parents. Nick didn't even hesitate. I absolutely would. George glared at him. You've changed. Yeah, Nick said. I have. Then I held up my phone so they could see the screen. You're on camera. Leave now, or we'll send this footage to every relative you lied to. Sylvia sputtered. We didn't mean. George grabbed her arm. Let's go. They turned and walked back to their car. But not before George turned back. You'll regret this. Then they were gone. After the attempted break-in, we thought it was over. Nick was done. I was done. We blocked their numbers. We changed our locks. We told neighbors to keep an eye out. But we underestimated them. Because they had one last move. And it was worse than we ever expected. It was a Sunday afternoon when we heard the knock. Not a normal knock. A heavy, official-sounding knock. I looked through the peephole. 2 police officers. Nick frowned. Did you call them? No. We opened the door. Are you Nicholas and my name? One officer asked. Nick nodded. Yeah. Is something wrong? The officer glanced at his notepad. We got a report that your elderly parents have been trying to contact you, and they're concerned for your safety. My stomach dropped. Nick froze. What? The officer sighed. They claimed you were being manipulated. That you're being isolated from your family. That you're in distress. That's a lie, Nick said immediately. Do you need help? The other officer asked, studying Nick's face. Nick's eyes widened. Wait, do you think I'm in danger? The first officer looked awkward. They called it a wellness check. Said they feared for your mental health. I felt pure rage. They tried to use the police against us. Sylvia's sobbing voicemails suddenly made sense. She was laying the groundwork for this. Nick ran a hand through his hair. Look, my parents are lying. We cut them off because they're manipulative. They don't like it, so now they're doing this. The officer hesitated. Do you have any proof of that? I smiled. Actually, we do. I grabbed the folder. The one full of their messages. The one I had printed out the night everything blew up. I handed it to the officer. Read this. He skimmed it. His eyebrows went up. Then he showed it to his partner. They exchanged looks. Well, damn, one muttered. The officer closed the folder and nodded. Yeah, this is definitely not what they made it seem like. Nick let out a breath. So what now? The officer handed the folder back. We'll file this as a false report. If they try it again, you can consider filing a harassment claim. Nick nodded slowly. Then the officer gave us a knowing look. They also asked us to convince you to come, talk things out. Nick laughed bitterly. Yeah, that's not happening. The officer smirked. Didn't think so. They left. But we weren't done yet. Because if they wanted to play dirty, we would play smarter. That night, Nick called his uncle, the only family member still talking to us. I need a favor, he said. Then we started gathering everything. The messages. The voicemails. The security footage from the break-in attempt. The police report. Then we sent it to every single relative they had lied to. With one simple message from Nick, this is the truth. Do what you want with it. We woke up to absolute chaos. Cousins texting Nick, furious. Nick's aunt calling, apologizing for believing them. His brother, Mark, sending a shocked voice memo. But the best part? Sylvia's final text. You humiliated us. I hope you're happy. Nick smirked. Actually, I am. But then a new message came in. From an unknown number. One sentence. This isn't over. The message, this isn't over. It sat on Nick's phone like a loaded gun. He stared at it for a long time. I expected him to delete it. Maybe block the number. But instead, he said, I'm going to end this. I frowned. Nick, what does that mean? His jaw tightened. I want to see them. One last time. No more texts. No more drama. I want the truth face to face. I felt my stomach twist. You really think that'll help? Nick met my eyes. I don't know, but I need to do this. Nick texted them back. Meet me at the house. Just you two. No one else. No response. But 3 hours later, we heard a car pull up outside. I checked the security cameras. It was them. Nick took a deep breath. Are you coming? I hesitated. Do you want me to? Nick nodded. I need you there. George and Sylvia stood stiffly by the door, looking around like they still owned the place. Sylvia's eyes were red and puffy, but there were no tears. George had that same look he always did, cold, calculated, like he was already planning his next move. Nick crossed his arms. Say what you need to say. Sylvia inhaled sharply. You hurt us, Nick. You humiliated us in front of the entire family. Nick just stared at her. I told the truth. George scoffed. You sided with her. He jerked his chin at me, over your own family. Nick's face hardened. She is my family. Sylvia stepped forward. We raised you. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us. I snorted. Everything? You mean the constant guilt? The manipulation? Sylvia's head snapped toward me. Stay out of this. Nick held up a hand. No. She stays. Sylvia's lip trembled. You've changed. Nick exhaled. Of course I've changed. I grew up. I stopped letting you control me. And that scares you, doesn't it? Silence. Sylvia looked away. George's face was turning red. We just wanted what was best for you. Nick's voice was calm but firm. No. You wanted what was best for you. Sylvia choked on a breath. We just thought we'd always be together. That we'd stay close. Like a real family. Nick's expression didn't change. A real family doesn't manipulate. A real family doesn't try to control. A real family doesn't try to break up a marriage because they feel entitled to someone else's life. George's fists clenched. You think you're better than us now? Nick took a slow step forward. No. I just think I deserve better than this. Sylvia staggered back like he had slapped her. We're your parents. Her voice was barely a whisper. Nick's voice cracked. And I love you. But I won't let you hurt me anymore. Sylvia finally snapped. I should have never let her into our lives, she screamed, pointing at me. Nick's face twisted with anger. Don't you dare blame her for this. Sylvia was full-on sobbing now, shaking her head. You would have never turned on us if it weren't for her. George suddenly stepped forward, getting right in Nick's face. You're an ungrateful little brat. I tensed. Nick didn't move. His voice was calm. And you're a bully who thought he'd never lose control. George breathed heavily, his hands balling into fists. For a second, I thought he was going to hit him. But Nick didn't flinch. And then it happened. Sylvia let out a high, broken wail, then collapsed onto the couch, shaking. George just stood there, breathing hard, looking lost. Nick let out a slow, shaky breath. It was over. They didn't apologize. They didn't admit they were wrong. They just sat there, defeated, broken, furious in a way that had nothing to do with us and everything to do with losing control. Nick sighed. You need to leave. Sylvia shuddered. Nick, no. His voice was final. I need space. And you need to accept that. George's eyes darkened. We'll see how long that lasts. Nick met his father's gaze, calm, steady, unshaken. Forever. Sylvia whimpered, grabbing George's arm. Let's go. They left without another word. Nick and I stood there, listening to their car drive away. Then Nick let out a breath and collapsed onto the couch. I sat beside him. Are you okay? He was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, I feel free. I squeezed his hand. For the first time in years, I knew he meant it. Weeks passed. Nick's relatives slowly came around. Some apologized. Some didn't. Some never spoke to us again. Nick was okay with that. Then, one day, he got a letter in the mail. From Sylvia. One sentence. I don't know how to live without you. Nick stared at it. Then he folded it, put it in a drawer, and never looked at it again. Because he wasn't responsible for their happiness. He was finally living his own life.